our most valued student, my name is Confident. Welcome to our revision session. This is for grade 12 and I'm looking at functions, and in this instance I chose to focus on exponential graphs. So I took one of a previous paper. Actually, it was a June exam, if not prelims. I forgot about that. But this is the paper where a question that involves functions, and it was on exponential functions, was given to the students, and they were supposed to answer the questions as below. Now let us look at question 4. It says you are given f of x is that, so that's what we're given, and then says 4.1 you need to determine f of -1. So now let me just write that function here to say we are given, in this case, f of x is equal to it is equal to 4 times, that dot means times, 2 to the power x plus 1 minus 2. So then -2. So that's what you are given, and the first question they want you to do there, 4.1.1, they are saying you need to find f of -1. So what you do here is you are given f of -1 is equal to, so what they are saying is wherever there is an x like that, you need to put a -1 there. That's what actually it means. And when you do that, you will simplify as 4 times 2, and it's -1 plus 1 minus 2. And the calculator can give you the solution for that, which will be 4 times 2 to the exponent -1 plus 1, and we've got -2. And when you do that, you can see the answer is 2. So that's what you're having there. So that's the first part. That was a 4.1.1. Now let us look at 4.1.2, and the question is you need to find, in this case, you need to find the x-intercept, and this is 3 marks. So it's good 3 marks. You need to find the x-intercept. Now you must remember a few things. If they are talking about the x-intercept, you must know that at the x-intercept, what happens to y? Y is equal to 0. This is a condition you must always know. When they talk about the y-intercept, you must know whenever they say y-intercept, at that point x is equal to 0. And that word intercept means the point where x will cut the x-axis. So that point where x is going to cut the x-axis is called the x-intercept. So in this case, if we're going to find the x-intercept, you can see the equation. We said y is equal to 0. In this case, f of x, which is y, will be equal to 0. So what you have, then you will have 4 times 2 to the power of x plus 1 minus 2. You equate that to 0 because this is your f of x. So remember, this part here represents my f of x. So that f of x is equal to 0. That's what actually it is happening. So when you have done that, you need to then solve for x. You need to know how to solve for x in this case. First thing first, you take -2 to the other side, so that you'll be having 4 times 2 to the power of x plus 1. Then it is equal to, from -2, it will become a +2. The next important thing to do is for you to divide both sides, because 4 is multiplying there. So you can, the opposite of multiplication is division. You divide by 4 on both sides, so that you'll be having 2 into 4, there is 2, it's a half. So what you'll be having there is, if I can take it further here, so what you'll be having here is 2 to the power of x plus 1 is equal to 1/2. So that's what we are having, and we have to solve for x. These are exponential rules, so there is a power 1 there. what you need to know is that half is same as, if you take a calculator and say what is half, half is same as 2 to the power of -1. So if I say 2 to the power of -1, you can see that it's a half. Remember, when I take 2 to the top, the +1 will change to a -1. So I have 2 to the power of x plus 1 is equal to 2 to the power of -1. As a student who's doing matric at this stage, you need to be able to solve that. But there is a lesson whereby I teach on this part on exponents and the laws of exponents, as well as exponential equations. Check my previous videos, you'll be able to find how to solve that. Now, when the bases are the same, you can see I have a 2 and a 2. You are going to use the law which says if a to the power of m is equal to a to the power of n, look, same base, therefore the powers m is equal to that power n. So that is what I'm going to be using in this case for the same part here, whereby this part is, I've got same base of 2. I can say therefore the powers x plus 1, which is that one, is equal to that one. I sing the same part. So x plus 1 is equal to -1. Now you take +1 to the other side, it will be x is -1 minus 1, and I've got x is equal to -2. So now the question was, I need to find the y-intercept. The x-intercept. That was the first one, the x-intercept. So this is the x-intercept, but if I'm to put it in a coordinate form, that particular x-intercept is when x is -2, y is 0. This is the coordinates of the x-intercept. All right, so the next question says I need to find 4.1.3, the y-intercept, and it is 2 marks. Now to find the y-intercept, I'm just going to try to do it from this point like that. So here I'm going to find 4.1.3, the y-intercept. Now if you say y-intercept, you must know what it means. The moment you say y-intercept, you must know that x is equal to 0. That's what the y-intercept means. Y-intercept means x is equal to 0. So what you need to do is to take your f of x, and remember now f of x here is equal to 4 times 2 to the power of x plus 1 minus 2, and we said x is equal to 0. So f of 0, where there is x, that's where we put the 0, is 4 times 2 to the power of, where there is x, it's 0 plus 1 minus 2. Well, you can try to solve it yourself, but I prefer to use the calculator. Remember, you're in an exam, and in an exam you don't want to use your mental energy a lot. Anything that the calculator can do for you, I'll encourage you to just use the calculator in that case. So the answer is 6. So we have got 6, that is f of 0, and you can still put this in coordinates form to say when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 6. So this is the y-intercept. All right, now the question 4.1.4, it says the equation of the asymptote. Now this graph, let me write it down here. This graph has an asymptote. By the way, it's 4 to the power, let me write here, f of x. We have f of x, that is 4.1.4. So that is 4.1.4. So this graph, I just want to explain to you the asymptote part. You can actually recognize it. This graph, f of x is equal to 4 times 2 to the power of x plus 1 minus 2. So now whenever you're talking about the asymptote, you're talking about a point that the graph will never cut. So in this case, how do you try? Let's say you're confused and then you want to have an idea to say what is the asymptote in that case. So you can actually use a calculator here and choose any value of x, but choose big values of x like 10, 20, 40, 50. You can see I'll say 4 times 2 to the power of, let's start with 10, where my x is 10 plus 1 and minus 2, and you'll notice something. So it becomes in this case 8190. You see that? Now if I put a negative, now let's make it negative. We want to see how this thing will reduce to. So it's minus 1,99. Let's go for negative 20 this time. I think the negative one is the one that is going down. I'm going for negative 20. It's minus 1,999999. I continue. I'm going for negative 30. It's minus 1,999. You can see the 999 is increasing. I'll go for negative 40. You see, at the end of the day, it reduces to minus 2. So what you need to know is whenever you're looking at the asymptote, the graph will reduce to that part. So the question is here, the equation of the asymptote. So the equation of the asymptote is x, actually it's y, not x here, because remember it's f, you see, it's f of x. So y, which is f of x, is equal to negative 2. That is the equation of the asymptote. I will show you further whenever it comes to question 4.2. Actually, look at question 4.2. They say sketch the graph of f on the answer sheet provided on page 13. Unfortunately, I'm not going to use that. I will use my page. Indicate the intercept with the axis, the asymptote. So we are going to look now how to ensure that you do this part. To indicate the intercept with the axis, number 1, the asymptote, number 2, coordinates of any one point on the graph which is not on the axis, that's number 3. So you need to meet all these conditions. If you don't, they are going to penalize your mark and you might not get your full 3 marks. So now let's try to sketch this graph, and then out of it I'm going to sketch it just here, because I want to use the same points that I already have been using, like that. So I want to sketch this graph, and remember, this becomes my y, this becomes my x. Now the first things first is to look at the intercepts. So I've got the x-intercept, which is minus 2, and then I've got the y-intercept, which is 6. And then so the biggest number that I have there is minus 2 on the y, and on the x is minus 2, and then the positive side of y is 6. So if I move maybe say 2 steps at a time, for example here, I will say this is like that. This becomes 2, this becomes 4, that becomes 6, that becomes 8. Same thing with the x values. This becomes, I can actually say 1, that becomes 2, that becomes 3, because remember the biggest value of x was 2. So this becomes minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. And then on the negative one, it's negative 2, negative 4, and negative 6. So let's say I've got these values, and now I need to plot. The first thing is the x-intercept. So I'm going to start with that because it was my x-intercept. If you remember, it was question 4.1.2. They said x-intercept, and I have that coordinate, which is minus 2, 0. So when I come here to mark that point, minus 2, 0, when x is equal to minus 2, y is equal to 0, I have a point there. Then the other point that I have is the y-intercept, which is when x is 0, y is 6. So it is that point there. So I can put it in my graph there. When x is 0, y is 6. Now remember, this must take the shape of an exponent. You need to know the general shape of an exponent. Now the next important thing, the question, actually, if you look at the question, these questions were guiding you. 4.1.1, 4.1.2, 4.1.3, 4.1.4, they were guiding you so that you can answer question 4.2. So it is all connected. So when they ask you the equation of the asymptote, so what you do here, you come to this part, and the equation of the asymptote, remember, we said it was y is minus 2. So you come here in minus 2. That is where the equation of the asymptote is. And you will be drawing a line. It's a line that passes through minus 2 on a straight line like this. But now you don't draw the line like that. You draw the line as a broken line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that line. So it's like this is the way, you know, you draw that line as a broken line. It becomes then the line which is, we call this line y is equal to negative 2. That's the line which is the asymptote line. So when you're drawing this graph, remember the graph must never touch the asymptote line. So how do you draw the graph? It's an exponential graph like this. Start from there. It will cut there. It will also cut there. Going up, let me try it again. So you have a graph like this. Alright. And it is going like that. So we have a graph of this nature. Like that. But it must cut, I want it to cut at that particular point, which is, in this case, which is my my 6. It must make a nice curve, and that particular curve must cut at 6. All right, let me be satisfied with that one. It's not looking good, but I'll leave like that. So that is the graph of f that I have. So that is the exponential graph. Remember, it must not touch, this graph must not touch the asymptote there. Ensure that it doesn't touch the asymptote. So that's what we are having there. And this is, you must name it, says this is f. But now let us go to the question. The question says, number 1, we must indicate the intercepts with the axis. We just indicated by saying that point there is minus 2. That is the intercept you indicated. By writing that part as 6, that is what is important. So you have fulfilled the first part. And the next question is the asymptote. You have got that. You can even write asymptote there. That is, you have indicated with the equation y is equal to minus 2 because they asked you that question. And then the coordinates of any one point on the graph which is not on the axis. You see, they asked you question 4.1.1. They said if f is minus 1, what is, f of minus 1 where x is equal to negative 1. We did find the value of y. Now that it can be the coordinate that you can use. So you can come here and say, question 4.1, when you said x was here, when x was equal to negative 1, you said y was 2. So the coordinate is minus 1 and 2. That is any other point that they are asking for. If I go to the question, says coordinates of any one point on the graph which is not on the axis. So it must not be on the x-intercept, it must not be on the y-intercept, but at any other point on the graph. So that point that you can choose is the one which is x is minus 1 and y is 2. So you come here, you choose to say when x is negative 1, y is 2. So you see the graph in a way was supposed to be passing that, and then you come here and say minus 1 and 2. You need to name that point. You can choose any point. For example, you can say when x, for example, is equal to 3, negative 3. So you come to the original equation here. this is the original equation. So when x is equal to -3, so what you'll do is you use the calculator there and say 4 times 2 to the power of -3 plus 1, and we say minus 2. See, I'm getting a -1. So that is another point here to say f of -3 is equal to -1. So the coordinates are -3 and -1. You can plot that point again here to say I got a point of -3 and -1. So that particular point will be here. So that will be the point. And then you label it and say it's -3 and 1. So any point that you think you're going to use, it is going to be fine. Alright, so that is how you sketch that graph. Then says 4.3, write down the equation of graph f if G represents the graph of f shifted 2 units to the right. So now what you need to come back to this graph. They are saying the graph of G, if G represents the graph of f shifted 2 units to the right. So this is the graph of f. So now if they are saying they are shifting it 2 units to the right, so the direction where it's supposed to go, this is the direction to the right. So when you're going to the right, what you need to know is you are subtracting, and then when you're going to the left, what you need to know is you are adding. But what are you adding? You can see that to the right, I'm adding the x-axis are the ones that are increasing, the y-axis are not increasing, and when I'm moving this direction, the x-axis are increasing to the negative. So it's the x-axis that are being involved. They're increasing to the negative. On the other side, they're increasing to the positive, but I must subtract. So my answer therefore will be, if I go to the original equation, which is f of x is equal to 4 times 2 to the power x plus 1 minus 2. So they said I must move 2 units to the right. So those 2 units now, remember, I'm going to be subtracting. So the answer will be, if I move g of x, let me just do this. They say the graph will be g of x. So g of x, which is moved 2 units to the right, is equal to f of x. Let me do that. It is equal to, remember, I'm only affecting the what? I'm only affecting the x-axis. So it is equal to the graph of f of x, where it will be 4.2. Now that is where x is x. Now because I'm moving 2 units to the right, I'm subtracting 2 units from x, and then it's plus 1 minus 2. I hope you see what is happening. So this is the part where things are changing. It shows that when I'm saying x minus 2, it means I have moved 2 units to the right. All right, that minus 2 meaning I am moving 2 units to the right. And then there is the plus 1 of the equation. So when you simplify it, it will be 4 times 2 to the power x. Now minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1 minus 2. So this will be the new equation that you'll be having for that. So that's how you simplify that particular question so that you can get 1 mark. I hope, guys, this was of benefit to you. So as I said, it is the functions that I'm looking at, and this was the exponential part, and I thought this was important for me to bring it across. Now, if you've not subscribed to our channel, I will encourage you to subscribe to our channel so that you can get more notifications of these videos as we post them. We have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you.